Good morning, good day, wherever you are on this amazing planet. Welcome to the Science of Mind conversation series here on New Thought Media Network. My name is Laura, and I'm very excited today to be sharing about one of the most, I believe, one of the most profound topics, practices, opportunities that Ernest Holmes talks of. And we're going to unpack the idea of mental equivalence, what that really means, and how we can work with the law to unfold the greater experience of our lives, of this experience of life right now. So welcome. It's great to be here. Wayne, welcome to you. If you are here and watching, I can see that you've left comments in there. Yes, Wayne, welcome. I believe that this is going to really allow us to understand what mental equivalents are and how we can align with the good that is already here. So often we don't realize it, or we realize it's here in our conscious mind, and yet we're not always experiencing what it is that we truly want. I mean, how many times have we said, I want this, I wish I had that, I wish this was different, I wish this would change. Golden bubble of peace. There we go. Thank you, Wayne. Yes, I'm remaining in the golden bubble of peace. And how many times we desire these changes for our lives, and yet we're really flummoxed when things don't show up the way that we feel or believe or wish them to. So we're going to look at this a little bit more deeply right now today. Of course, this is a conversation series, so at any time you can add your comments into the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, and I want to get this conversation going. I really do want us to be in that place where we feel by the end of this, we understand what Ernest Holmes means by mental equivalence. So I've created a few slides here. They're just really to guide me through, because it's a big chapter. And if you have this textbook with you, then please turn to page 279. This is where it begins. And we're going to first look. When I first saw this, I kind of went immediately to the back of the textbook, because at the back of the textbook, he has all of his explanations and for idea and principle. And the explanation for mental equivalent that Ernest Holmes uses is to have a subjective idea of the desired experience as we bring ourselves to a greater vision than the range of our present concepts. We can then induce a greater concept and thereby demonstrate more in our experience. Wow. And what does he really mean by that? Well, for me, this is him saying and letting us know that we have a conscious mind. We have a conscious mind where we do our thinking and our reasoning, and we have a logical explanation for how we think life should be. And with our conscious mind, I mean, if we go back to the teaching symbol, we see that circle and we see the three parts there that are really one, which is spirit, soul, and body. So spirit, we can say that we are divinely inspired by what we're the ideas that come through, and the visions and the thoughts and all of that, and that's our conscious mind having these wonderful aha moments and being inspired with ideas. And then from there, this kind of settles down into our subconscious, into the subjective. So often we desire something for our lives, and in our conscious mind, we're doing the work, we're doing the affirmations, we're doing the visualizing. Well, that's in our subconscious, but we're doing our prayers, and we're knowing what it is that we're desiring, and yet it's not happening. And what he's saying here is that the work really is to be done in the subjective. having a subjective idea of the desired experience. If it's health that we are desiring, then we need to know deep within us, in our subconscious, in the subjective, that the truth is divine, that spring of vitality and divine health, that it is here right now. So he continues to remind us here in the textbook. I mean, this is the next section. I'm going to say there are certain sections to this. If you're looking here, there are about 7 different sections within this one chapter. And one of the, this, if we know the power with which we are dealing with, if we only know what we're dealing with here, that it's a principle and not personality. So really, this is beyond our own individualized personality, and it's beyond God as this thing outside somewhere in the sky saying, yes, you can, and no, you can't. There's no personality here whatsoever. This is this divine principle that is working all the time, 24/7, non-stop. This is God. This is source, whatever we choose to call it. And if we only know that it is not personality, it's principle. And if we know and believe that mind is the only actor, cause, effect, substance, intelligence, truth, and power, that's all there is. And if we have real embodiment, then we can demonstrate. And this is key here. Speaking the words and saying them is one thing. Embodying it and knowing it like we know, is another thing. And that's why when we are in stating spiritual mind treatment, it's beyond the words. It's beyond the words. It's about the embodiment. It's about the actual knowing that this is the truth. That the truth of it is that this principle is working the whole time. Even back of the principle is the divine, the idea of the prince with the idea of the principle. So our job is to really, really live from that place of faith. I've skipped a little bit here, but he does say we walk by falling forwards. Yes, water falls by its own weight. So what does mental equivalent have to do with all of this? And he's slowly getting into all of this by saying that our divine individuality compels infinity to appear as our experience as duality because we believe duality. So I'm just want to say this because this is the part, if we know that there's only one thing, that there is one thing happening here right now, this one thing is the cause and is the effect, love. If we know that and we're embodying this one thing with the faith of even a mustard seed, if we know this and when we know this, then we know that and the beauty and the magnificence of our lives. So I've written this in here. Our divine individuality compels infinity to appear as our experience as duality because we've believed in duality. So if we believe that there is not enough, which is duality, really, isn't it? Because as God, as the divine, as the infinite, it is allness. It is the everything. That's what infinite means. And eternal means that it has never had really a beginning. It's always been this way, and it will never have an ending. So can we imagine that in our own human minds? Not easy. Not easy, because we have a snapshot, if you like, and the smaller the snapshot, maybe the less faith and belief that we have that this one thing is all encompassing of everything, all possibilities, all potentiality already exists. This is how he starts with mental equivalence. If we only knew And I believe this is the work. It's an eternal work. It's not a 5-minute wonder thing. None of this is a quick fix. We have to make a commitment to ourselves to want to unfold all of these practices and knowings within ourselves. And it can take time because it's a daily, a moment by moment, yes, and a commitment. So let's look a little bit more at what he means by mental equivalence. He starts by talking about prayer. The one praying. We're not changing God. We're not changing the external situation. We're not changing someone else or how someone else might behave, or we're not changing anything outside of ourselves in the world of effect. Although that's all God too, of course it is. It's all God. I'm not separating it. But when we're praying, we're coming into that place of the infinite, into the transcendental place where we know that beyond space and time, all potentiality exists, all possibilities exist. And that's where we're praying from that place. So we're being called to have that faith from the very, very beginning of our prayer. And he begins with prayer here. And he's saying that this is the piece here that he's saying in italics. And when he speaks in italics and writes in italics, we know it's something to just tune into a little bit more deeply. Things must be measured out to us according to our own measuring. I believe this is what he means and what is meant by mental equivalent. Things must be measured out to us according to our own measuring. So even if we think that we desire something and that we believe it is possible for us, if in our conscious mind we're stating it and we're saying, yes, I believe, and yet there are other running beliefs predicting and going against, or maybe we have a whole kind of pattern of thought processes that are running subconsciously that we're not even really fully aware of because we haven't chosen to do the work to unfold those ideas. Then what happens is we're coming from a house divided, that place where, we might be saying it, but we're not really connected to the feeling it and knowing it truly from our hearts. So for example, I mean, if any of you, if you're watching right here and right now, and if you want to put anything into the chat, if there's something that you have desired to change for your life, and maybe it's not happening as quickly or as swiftly or as easily as you would like it to, please pop it in here and we can use this if you like as an example. And I'm going to give an example. Maybe it's I don't know, let's just keep it something really simple, something very, very simple. If you want something for your life to make your life easier, let's say maybe a new I'm not even going to go as far as a car. Maybe there's just something that you desire for your life, and yet you're finding it not that easy for it to manifest and materialize into your life experience. And what Ernest Holmes is saying is that if we want these things to appear for our lives, we want our lives to change and be different, then we have to do more than just speak the word. We have to actually embody the experience of that thing. And that's what he means by up-leveling and increasing our container, our mental equivalent. But really, it's beyond the mental thinking. It's more of a knowing, of a deeper unification with this potential that is infinite, where all possibilities exist. So we create the measure. We are the measuring jug. We are our own measuring jug. And often we can want something, and that word in itself creates resistance, because we can often want something and it's not happening for our lives. And then we fall back into a place of, well, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening? Why? What am I doing wrong? Where am I going wrong? Where is life going wrong? I'm not being supported. I mean, I hear this one also, that God doesn't love me and all of this, externalizing God. When really it's about, well, do I believe? Am I embodying the idea of it? And we're going to go a little bit deeper, because it's not just about embodying the idea of it. Say, for example, he gives this example in here of wanting a new home. But say, for example, we want something and we say we believe that it is possible, and yet we're not prepared to take the steps that might come forwards that take us closer to that thing. Because, in that kind of Aladdin's lamp version of life, where, oh, okay, I'll just polish the lamp and there's a genie will come out, which actually is us also. We have that inner genie. Polishing the lamp, a genie will come. Yes, your 3 wishes will be whatever you want will come true right now. And yet we're always also, life is going to unfold those experiences as for us, as us, through us, and it's going to invite us to take the steps. Now, we might not particularly like some of the steps. We might argue within ourselves around what those steps are, and yet those steps, those actions are going to grow us. They're going to expand us into what it is that we believe that we are believing for our lives. So we're always being given opportunities to grow. There are many examples of this, and I don't want to get too biblical at all. And yet I'm going to give the examples of, the prodigal son, where he was given this opportunity, and he went and he came away from God and did his own thing. And then he came back and he realized the hand there outstretched, his father's hand was outstretched, welcoming him back. God is always there. This opportunity is always here for us to grow and expand. And yet, are we saying yes to that? Are we really saying yes to that? That just really came to me there. I'm going to move. We're being invited continually to expand hearts, in our minds, in our actions, and think in the way that we feel. And prayer is a part of this. I mean, he talks a lot about prayer in this particular chapter. He talks a lot about prayer because for Ernest Holmes and for any of us that are practitioners in this, or ministering in this, or knowing the truth of these teachings, we know that prayer is one of the most profound practices that we have to use, not have to, but that we can use at any single moment, where we're shifting our own understanding of ourselves. Prayer is the portal for us to be able to open up to this infinite potential that is here. And he talks a lot in this particular chapter about faith and acceptance. Accepting our good, accepting the good that's already here. Accepting the good. Do we always accept it? We say we want these changes. We say we want life to be different. We say we want peace here, right now. Okay, I'm just bringing this in. Just saying. We say we want Peace. I say, I'm going to stay with the I say, I desire peace for humanity collectively right now. Now, as I say that, I'm being given an opportunity to take real responsibility here and look at my life. And where is it that where there's more opportunity for me to have more peace for me personally, with myself, with finances, with my beloved, with my family, with my friends? Where are those places where I'm not expanding in my mental equivalent, and yet I have the audacity maybe to say, I really want to see peace right now for everybody on this planet. And this is the piece for me, is that we're always being prompted to take personal responsibility here, because the ripple that I am rippling out, the ripple that you are rippling out, is what is, that is our intention for this life right now. So if we're saying one thing and doing another, we're kind of in that place of house divided. So we are always being given an opportunity to look at ourselves. I'm being given this opportunity to look within me to see if I am really practicing what I am desiring. Whew. This is a 40-minute program. It's like, oh my gosh, Carol, it's so good to be with you here. Let's see what Carol, you are here. Thank you. One of the things I love about New Thought, when interpreted objectively, is our deliberate response to opportunities. We have an intentional part in the manifestation process. Yes, that's it, Carol. That's it. You've just said in about 2 lines what I've taken about 10 minutes to say. I love it that you're saying it so concisely. Thank you. And that is the truth. We do have a responsibility to be intentional in all ways when we state something that we desire. I would love to be in a larger apartment. And if I'm not loving where I am right now, how can I then be, my mental equivalent is not opening up for that larger space? Because a part of me might be resenting or not grateful, or it's not enough. And so I'm in a house divide. I'm not fully embodying. I'm not fully embodying the goodness and the greatness of the potential that is seeking to come through right now. So we're being given this massive opportunity to live to be of faith totally, and in gratitude the whole time. Not always easy, because things will come along to test us and challenge us. I've written here. I've written slides, but I know the next one is coming up right now. Mental equivalent is one of the ideas that we are ever unfolding. We're ever unfolding, forever unfolding, and it's an eternal job. As my wonderful senior minister here in the UK would still always reminds me, this is not a one and done. We're here to tune into this understanding that we are eternal beings. We are continually being given opportunities to look within and to dissolve the beliefs and the ideas that are not supporting us right now, to grow into the greater good that we desire. So Ernest Holmes reminds us that we must have a mental equivalent of the thing that we desire. Now, for me, this doesn't just mean, yes, I would love a greater space to live in, a bigger apartment. Okay, there we are. So that doesn't mean that I'm I'm just saying the words, I have to have the mental equivalent of that. So that means that my work, there we go. This is me in progress here right now. That means that my work is to accept the qualities of what it is that I desire for my life. So what would that bring me to be living in a larger space? It would give me more greater sense of freedom, of creative expression. It would give me a greater sense of space to be able to live more freely and just to move around more and have more space to move around in. And it would allow me to, I would feel good. I would feel really amazing to have that. And so when I'm opening up and expanding my mental equivalent, it's not that I am really focusing on that external effect of that thing. I'm growing into the attributes of the divine that I'm seeking for myself. I am expanding into those qualities of freedom, of creative self-expression, of movement and space, of light, of joy. You know, all of those wonderful qualities, I'm opening up to accepting more, to being the greater vessel to receive those for my experience of this life. Now, that's going to take form in many, many, many different ways. It is ultimately the living space that I'm looking for and I'm seeking. However, when I'm opening up and expanding and uplifting my mental equivalent for those qualities, then what I'm doing is I'm saying, let those things be the expression for my life in all wondrous ways, including the living space, the home space that I am in. And allow those things to show up also in other ways, because in the mind of the divine, there is no great and small, there is no right and wrong, there is no stop and start. It's one expansive unfolding. So why cut myself off from the good? Why cut myself off from the good? So there I'm seeking to open up to what is possible. And knowing that the divine is going to present these opportunities for me in the most wondrous of ways. And my work is to say yes in faith, knowing that I'm being guided towards what it is that I'm opening up for. So let's see what I have next here. Mental equivalent. I'm going to just turn on to the next little. So he's talking about faith as a mental attitude, which is so convinced of its own idea, which so completely accepts it, that any contradiction is unthinkable and impossible. So we have to be in this place where we are so sure that this divine essence, this divine knowing, that the wisdom, that the intelligence, God, source, whatever the creative unfolding, we have to be so sure that this is here. Because if we're not sure, then we're not truly in faith. And if we're not in faith, we cannot be fully receptive. So we have a law of receptivity. The law of receptivity, which tells us that one consciously builds up our receptivity of truth. That's what it means. The law of receptivity is a continual build-up of our receptivity of truth. So what we're always seeking to do is to come away from the idea, the one idea that I believe is the idea that keeps us stuck, that keeps us in limit and lack, the one idea that keeps us in a sense of poverty or not enoughness, and that is the idea of separation. That is the idea of separation. And it's really incredible how Ernest Holmes, his writings have been so profound, and the number of books and booklets and documents, and I mean the archives is filled with the work of Ernest Holmes. Can you imagine? Science of Mind, we need an archive, a library and a museum to keep the body of work that Ernest Holmes has created in his lifetime. That is astounding, isn't it? Really. You can go to the scienceofmindarchives.com and you can really tune into all of his work that he created, and it's all kept there and housed there. Reverend Kathy Mastroianni is the executive director and does an incredible job with others at archiving and bringing back to life documents also that are kind of, need some loving care. And so his whole body of work that he's ever written is housed in the archives. And the reason I'm saying this is because he's saying the same thing in thousands of different ways. Okay? That's what Ernest Holmes is doing with all of his work. He's basically saying the same thing over and over and over and over in so many different ways that he's coming at it from ways that if we're not going to hear it and get it in one way, we can hear it another way, because we can hear it a million times and it's not embodied. Do you ever get that where you can hear the same thing over and over spoken by so many different people in different ways, and then suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, they're saying what I know. And yet we've heard it over and over. We weren't ready to hear it, and then we suddenly hear it from somebody and it's like, yeah, that's true. That is true. And that's what Ernest Holmes is doing. And that's why he kept writing and creating and coming up with different ideas of different ways of saying the same thing. And the same thing that he's saying, I believe, is that our work here as spirit human beings is to remember who we are and to dissolve any idea of separation. That's what it is for me. And when we do that, then everything opens up. Mental equivalent wouldn't even be a thing, would it? Because it's a human thing. Our mental equivalent is the human. It's almost like the perception that we have of life. So as we open and expand into the greater, away from the form and into the infinite, and we contemplate for hours love and peace and joy and freedom and creativity and self-expression and power and harmony and prosperity and money and abundance and health and well-being. When we do this and set this aside, time aside to do this, we are expanding our mental equivalent. We're being greater receivers of what it is that's already here. Wow. Amazing. Carol, yeah, I'm opening up to, thank you for putting this in, Carol. I'm opening up to accepting more, expanding my mental equivalent, opening up to what's possible. Love that, especially that the divine will manifest in the expansiveness. Is that correct? Let's talk about this. The divine will manifest in the expansiveness. Well, let's just look at it from this point of view. As a Science of Mind practitioner, I would say, and I believe, that it's already whatever I desire, whatever we desire is already here. Yes, in the one mind, in the potential of possibilities, it already exists. If the idea comes through me as me for an inspiration, for something that it is that I seek for my experience, then what I'm really doing is I'm catching that vision that already exists. So it's not that the mind will manifest in the expansiveness. I believe that it's already manifest, and it's me tuning into that expansiveness. And if my mental equivalent is small, then it's not possible yet for me to accept that, to have that acceptance of what it is that I know on some level is already here. So my work is to expand my mental equivalent rather than to be wanting that thing, so that I open up to being the greater receiver of this. And I shift in my perception, change my paradigm, really, allow the newness to come through, or my idea of the paradigm. If that's making any sense, I'm opening up to accepting more, expanding my mental equivalent. Yes. Opening up to what is possible. It's already here. Yes. Especially that the divine will manifest in the expansiveness. So the divine, there's no big or small. God is not putting a quota on anything. It all is already there and possible. And if you think about it from a quantum physics point of view, consciousness is the ground of our being. Consciousness is already here. And us as the observers we're collapsing the wave particle in our own selves, in our own minds. We're the ones observing. So when we're observing, if we're not believing that it can be, then we're going to, it's like it funnels back out, and it's only going to funnel out to that degree of what it is we're choosing rather than opening up. So we are the power. We are the ones that are central here to opening up, to saying, yes, it's already here. And this is why I say that when we're coming away from this idea of separation, which is an eternal job, then we're opening up to the expansiveness that's already here. And we are remembering who we are and the power of who we are. But remember, we're finite beings experiencing an infinite possibility, the infinite possibilities. We're experiencing this finite as the finite, because as Ernest Holmes says, if we all could have it all right now, life would be a bit of a mess. Because if we all had all of it, everything that we dreamed of and thought of right now in this moment, we wouldn't be able to cope, because we're so imaginative and so many things. It wouldn't make sense. Lives wouldn't make sense. So we grow into this. We expand into this. Thank you, Carol. Here we go. Let's see you. I love it that you're making these comments. And Wayne, yes. Let's see what you're putting here. Ernest Holmes is amazing. He drew me and continues to do so. Yes, he's saying he's saying what I know. So affirming. Guess that's why I love him. Yes, he is saying what we know, and he's opening our hearts and our minds with all of this work, the body of work that he brings to us. He's opening us up. Just by reading the textbook, we are expanding our mental equivalent. We're opening up. We're releasing that idea of separation. I'm going to just move on through, because I created quite a few. I got a bit overexcited because I love this. And then I'm going to just next part for the next 5 minutes or so. It's really interesting. Yes, I talk about the law of reciprocity, and I think we've talked about this of and opening up to being believers that we are. I want to talk about this. I was on to talk about plan. And I love this. He's given a very, I mean, really, the whole textbook is is an incredible resource. It's such a teaching manual as well. And on page 286, he outlines a definite plan of how we can, or how it's possible to expand mental equivalence. I want to come away completely from the genderization of Ernest work and the way that he wrote. I think Reverend Roberts said last week that he is reframing or rewriting the way that Ernest Holmes has used pronouns in the writing of the textbook. And we excuse Ernest Holmes because the textbook was written in originally 1926. And so we know we've expanded in our mental equivalent collectively over the past 100 years or so, just under. So we know that we are now more receptive of understanding the languaging that is right and true for us right now as humanity expands in its own mental equivalent. Because we're not only doing this individually, the mental equivalent is not only for me and for you and for our neighbors and our friends and those in other places. It's a collective mental equivalent. I have to bring this in here, that as we choose to do this and open up to releasing or dissolving that idea of separation, then what we're doing we're doing this collectively. And this is where the vision statement comes in from, the Centers for Spiritual Living, a world that works for everyone. Well, we take personal responsibility, and one by one, we open and expand in our mental equivalent. And then we see there's like a tipping point of a new paradigm shift where we see that, yes, collectively, the mental equivalent is expanding, right? And then we see that world that we desire. We see the peace and the love for humanity. And we see then that maybe amendments and laws and all sorts are changed and shifted because we take personal responsibility. And that's why these teachings are so powerful, because they're an opportunity for us to change and transform the way we think and feel about ourselves and who we are as divine human beings. So the definite plan that he gives it just reminds me of this biblical story of the parable of the 5 talents. And the definite plan on 286 is, the 5, he says men, I'm going to say individuals who are given a certain amount of money each by somebody, and then a week goes by or 2 weeks goes by, and that money will be spent by those individuals or used by those individuals in line with their mental equivalent and their consciousness. And so a lot of these beliefs that we have, most of these beliefs that we have, are invisible because they're subconscious. They're working in our subconscious. And that is why we're always being prompted to look at that shadow side, if you like. I don't really want to call it the shadow side, because instantly that makes it into this kind of dark and gloomy place where it's like, I'm a bit scared to go there. No, I don't know if there's another word for it, but there are beliefs that we're holding, all of us, and ideas that we're holding in the subconscious, the unbiased, that keep us at the place where we believe we need to be. And these beliefs are not always of our own, we choose to take them on, and yet they weren't always initially thought up by us. We've picked them up, social media, parenting, carers, teachers, religion, politics, all sorts of things. We take these ideas on, and then we believe that we are the limitation of these ideas. So as we look at our own lives and we see there is a definite plan, the definite plan is to remember who we are. The definite plan is to know that we have these empowering tools and practices such as spiritual mind treatment and affirmations and self-talk, reprogramming, looking at the way that we talk to ourselves, what we say about ourselves, what we believe about ourselves. And really, having running mantras, using those mantras, those affirmations, and repatterning, reprogramming the way that we speak to ourselves. And all of the, we cannot just do this in the conscious mind. Listen to meditations, listen to ongoing streams of mantras as we're falling asleep, and all of these things that we do are really powerful because each of them accumulate to the work that we do every day in the world of the infinite, to reprogram and reassert and remember whose we truly are, the divine, and that God, that I call it God, and you may not. You may call it just love or this creative intelligence. Whatever it is, the name that you give this, know that it is all giving and all greatness and all love and all beauty, and it is desiring to experience itself as that through us. And that's why we're here, to be the portals of that, to be the hands and the feet and the minds and the heart of that for ourselves and for those that we are communing with. So as we expand in our mental equivalent, we're opening our hearts to the beauty and the love of who we are. And then we're more able to be that in the world. We're more able to be willing to be that in the world. And that's what we're here for. That's our purpose. We all have an on the planet purpose, and we all have a core purpose, and that is to remember whose and who we are, and to dissolve those ideas of separation. So Wayne, thank you for all of your comments and for being here and for shining your light here, and for the work that you're doing, because I know that you show up on many programs here on the network, and I've heard other people mentioning you also from other communities, other centers for spiritual living, and that you're there too. So I know you're doing amazing work with your own idea of who you are. Great. Thank you, Wayne. And Carol, yes, self-talk, such a profoundly important work, isn't it? Isn't it really? And if you have done the foundations, one of the foundations classes, The Power of Your Word, is just beautiful. And I have re-looked at that class many, many a times, and my own, and taught it. And every time I do that, it's like, whoa, yes, it's a great class to actually take part in. And even if you're not taking part in that class, to be more present with the conscious communication and the subconscious beliefs that we have, and actually busting those beliefs and coming back to the use of spiritual mind treatment for that. We can use spiritual mind treatment on our own beliefs. Spiritual mind treatment is not about that, desiring the house, not just about, I would love a greater experience of money and health and well-being and whatever it is. Spiritual mind treatment in that place, in that knowing of of the treatment, we realize the truth of the beliefs that we've been storing as well, and the ideas. And that for me is even more powerful, certainly more powerful, because as we disembody those beliefs, then we open up in our hearts and our minds to the truth, of what is. So it is a beautiful chapter, and I would say read it. It will take time to read because it's taken me years to read. All of it takes time to read. What I'm saying is that it's a wonderful chapter to allow us to just cogitate the ideas and take that time, not to read it in a hurry, but to read it over time and treat it as a body of work, to look for the ideas for where we can improve our lives and come back to that knowing of who we are, and dissolving the idea of separation. Ooh. And to finish on, he talks about perfect action and there are no mistakes. So we must know in mental work that there is one infinite mind which is consciously directing our destiny. Declare every day that no mistakes have ever been made, none are being made, and none can be made. And I really love this. Declare that there is one supreme intelligence which governs, guides, and guards, tells me what to do, when to act, and how to act. So we tune into that intelligence. We open up to knowing that intelligence and to acting from and as that intelligence. And that takes that's the word discernment. And as we open up and as we're willing to do the practices to use spiritual mind treatment to really tune in to knowing who we are, then we start to begin to live our lives from a different place. We start to begin living our lives from asking the question, if this is what I desire for my life, what am I being called to do to open up in my heart to be the greater experience of this, to match it? Yes. And it's an eternal work. So even the intention of it is bold. Having that intention with a yes is a great thing and a great beginning. Thank you all for being here and for your amazing comments. There we go. One with all. Thank you, Wayne. And next week we will be back definitely with the next, I think it's the law of attraction. I'm not too sure who will be on next week, but let me just see. Yes, it is the law of attraction we'll be looking at next week for the Science of Mind lecture series. Stay tuned in to New Thought Media Network. Of course, always great programming here, great opportunities for us to go deeper and understand who we are. There's another comment here. Thank you for joining. This was so very helpful. We are oftentimes taught to visualize and feel something specific, but this illuminated that what we need to do is to embody. Great clarification. Oh, thank you for writing this. Visualization is amazing. And of course, it's the feeling, because all of it is about getting to that place where we know it and we know it and we know it. It's like, oh, nothing can ever take me back, because this is where I am and this is what I know right now, and it's embodied within me. And I think what you're saying is really, really helpful and really important here, because yes, we're taught to visualize and feel something specific. And visualization is great, and it's a wonderful tool, because of course what we're doing as we visualize is we're seeing it as the possibilities. We're opening up to the possibilities and claiming it and feeling it and knowing it. Of course we are. And it's a really important practice. And I love visualization. And it's also about knowing that even if we can't visualize it, when we embody it, and when we really know it with spiritual mind treatment, we're coming from that place that is infinite. And so there are no, it's like it's all possible when we're in those attributes, in those divine qualities, and opening up to being more of them. Then we're allowing that visualization to come forwards in all sorts of amazing ways for our lives, in all sorts of amazing ways. So I believe that we have all these practices and all of these tools so that we can experiment with them, so that we can have fun with these practices. They're not meant to be a chore and boring, and it, like, treat it as an exploration into, oh, how can I lean into this practice for 2 weeks and see how this unfolds for me in my life experience. And then how can I lean into this practice and use our intuition to guide us with these practices? And then that we're open, that opens us up even more greatly, opening our hearts up to the possibilities of spiritual practice that are here for us right now. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. And Carol, great. Yes, see you next week for Law of Attraction. That will be amazing. Definitely. So I'm just going to pop this banner up because, wherever I am on New Thought Media Network, I will always be putting this banner up, and it is the donation. If I can find it, where is it? It needs to be here, but there is a donate link on ntmedia.org, and you know that that we are a focus ministry, bringing these teachings through the virtual world to individuals around the globe. And the donate button is on the website. If you feel that this network, this ministry is feeding your soul, knowing that God is our source, then we invite you to donate into the network and to support everything that we are doing here as we expand and grow into our beautiful vision here of bringing these teachings more profoundly and more dynamically to people around the world. That is it. If I looked a bit vague there for a minute, excuse me, that was just my internet. I was looking, there was another comment. Fiona, thank you. Great to be here with you. And I'm going to look for that because I'm really good at doing this production. I've now lost the production. There we go. Right. Thank you for being here. Until next week, love and blessings to you. And remember, that chapter is so powerful, mental equivalence. Read it and read it and read it and embody it in your heart and allow these teachings to really let you get to that place of dissolving those beliefs and those ideas of any sense of separation. That's the key here. Until next time, love and more love.